to have some memory come to the surface and intrude on the answer? Or is that what you're saying?
Joe Biden cannot form a coherent thought. What they're going to have is like a bug in his ear, right? Because this came out that like Trump wanted to search him for bugs or whatever. So he had a bug in his ear. And at some point, the person who's like handling him and the bug in his ear is going to have to like tell their kid to go to bed or something. And in the middle of it, Biden is just going to like start parroting whatever they're saying to their kids. He's going to be like, you know, talking about a public option or something. And then just, no, Mackenzie, you got to go to bed. And that's my bet. That's my bet for the evening.
Well, I made a bingo card.
I have it up and I'm stoked.
Hold on. I'll put it on screen. Very slowly and incompetently.
This just seems too in the realm of possibility and probability that I'm... what am I supposed to do if we get bingo?
Die?
Yeah, I guess. Shot of bleach. Am I allowed to say that? Like,
here's my bingo card.
Sick.
If you go to my Twitter, you can find it. Also, if you go to the Not Safe for Wonks Twitter, you can find it. You can also find the blank one on Not Safe for Wonks Twitter if you want to quickly try to fill out your own version. But this is the one I'm personally going to be filling out as I go. And you're welcome to use it. Anyone out there watching, if you feel like it. All right. And the debate's supposed to be starting like basically any moment. So I'm going to start sharing.
We definitely need to catch every second.
Every damn second. Hi, Kennedy. Other Kennedy, welcome.
Hello.
I need to hear absolutely every word said by these two senile old men.
Correct.
What's the future of America?
If we miss even one word, our analysis is not complete.
The future of America is in the 80s.
I learned this from a liberal who told me that if I didn't read all of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's cases, then I can't judge her. So
all of
yeah.
You got to put in the work.
Heard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is hell beginning?
Oh no, I saw the debate stage on the screen. I don't know what's going on with these people, so I'm just guessing when they're gonna actually start this. I saw them pull up the debate stage on their screen, and I thought it's time, but it's not time.
They're just pre-gaming.
They're just pre-gaming. They're just vibing.
Vibing
with Biden.
It's like a sports game. It always says like, "Oh, it's going to start at 8:05." It doesn't get started till like 8:20. And like politics, particularly like the debates, they're pretty much sports at this point. So same rules on start times.
I love a democracy that's like professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I wish it was a little more like professional wrestling. Do you think there's a chance? I do think that there's a small chance of a physical altercation between Biden and Trump.
Hell yes. I want it so bad.
If Biden punched Trump in the face, he would automatically win. It's the one thing he could do.
He would win. I would vote Biden.
Honestly, if Joe Biden gets on the floor and does a push-up, I'll vote for it. Like, honestly, if he's good on that threat, I will vote for him for that reason alone.
I don't know about doing a push-up.
That's what I need.
I don't know if that's enough to win my vote at this stage. But if he actually just decks Trump, socks him. I don't even care if it's a good punch. It could be a shitty, weak punch. It could be a but let's have it, you know? And
just
talk him the guts to do it.
If Biden throws that punch, like I'm
Hey, what's up, Brandon?
Hey, Red.
What's new? What's happening?
Just
My new neighbor, Brandon, and also
Have we seen? That's right.
my beautiful adopted son and neighbor, Brandon.
And neighbor. Have we started? Has the action begun?
The action has not started. I was just saying that if Biden throws a punch, that I would change my stance and vote Biden.
And see, I'm saying actually, I would do it for less than that. If he makes good on his promise to do push-ups on stage, that is some clown shit.
What do you
I will
think,
absolutely vote for clown shit.
I mean, it's going to be hard to outdo Trump in the clown shit category. I feel like Trump is more likely to do push-ups on stage or talk about a drug test or like pat Joe down for hearing device or some kind of shit like that. Hopefully Trump will bring the circus. One of these people will give us the lulls that we desire.
We need some showmanship. Like
I want some
did
Tony
not-
Hawk shit.
I
Is
did
there
not
gonna be
put
an
drug
audience?
test on my bingo card because I honestly thought it seemed too easy.
Who's more likely to do a kickflip?
I was about to say that.
Oh,
Which of them can do a kickflip? Brandon, get out of my freaking brain.
And I have no idea. Is there an audience?
There is a small audience, it looks like, yeah.
Fascinating.
I hope
So-
they all get it.
Some of them are not wearing masks too, which is kind of funny.
Oh, that's incredible.
How much did they have to pay for that experience?
Right? Like, there's nobody in that room that
$1,000.
can be alive. It's fine.
Oh,
You don't have
You know
to
what?
pay anything for this experience. Look at this.
You know,
Oh,
Hod
here we
Darwin,
go. Here we go.
Reserve University.
Oh,
Cleveland
shit.
Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News. Welcome to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President
doesn't feel
Donald
real.
J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden.
he looks
This
handsome.
debate is
Finally
sponsored
here,
by
fam.
Commission
Is the
on
audio
Presidential
working?
Debate.
Mhm.
Anyone know?
Yeah.
The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates. This debate
Okay,
is being
thanks for your
conducted under
assurance.
health and safety protocols designed by the
Right.
Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate.
Wow.
because they're going to punch each other in the
Great.
face.
Silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say.
What is
He's
this?
gonna
a
air
callback?
That feels a little
Right
more
now,
important than the
As we
applause.
welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the
A
Democratic
quiet political
nominee,
debate? That's
President Biden.
anti-American.
Does anyone like picture anyone clapping for
Boo.
either of them? Like, really?
Boo.
Additional Hit it.
That's my fucking president. Is Joe Biden wearing like skinny
Gentlemen,
slacks?
a
I
lot
love
of
it.
people have been waiting for this
That's
night, so
fashion.
let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You nominated Amy
Yeah.
Klobuchar.
She's legally a woman.
The notorious ACB.
Consider
Ugh.
a nominee to the court.
So
Vice
close to
President
ACAB,
Biden,
but
you
so
say that
hard.
this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make, and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court?
Trump looks
President
like a
Trump, in this
geodude.
first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences.
Biden's very pale.
Elections have consequences.
We have a
Is
phenomenal.
it that Biden is
You're like,
pale
yo,
or that
I
Biden just isn't
uh,
actively
academic,
orange?
Good
I'm
in
thinking
every
the
way.
latter.
Anyway,
Yeah, like when he
But
looks
he's just-
so
he's
next to an
absent of
actual
color.
human.
Congressers are very liberal people.
He's generally absent
from
of
Notre
color.
Dame and other places.
compared
So
to
I think
Trump.
it's going to be fantastic. We
I
have
mean,
plenty of
like
time.
low bar.
Even if we
I
did
think
it
that
after
part of
the
that is
election,
just
it's
seeing
going
in
to have a
color
lot of
balance.
time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that we have a
Equivocating
professional
Amy
Notre Dame,
Coney Barrett to
highly
Ruth
respected by
Bader
all. He's a
Ginsburg, an icon move.
he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a
Honestly,
great
like
school.
replacing a
And,
woman with
he's
a
just
woman,
said
that's
we won the
feminism.
election, and therefore we have
He's
the
a
right.
king.
Trump's
User
yeah, Trump's
and
in the
That's
right
praxis.
here.
knowingly would say otherwise.
I mean, I personally
They wouldn't even think
Like,
about
I
that.
feel
I have
more
like the
represented now.
nail
They
polish
said, try and do it
emoji.
faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick
That's
Garland,
the
but
tweet.
the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the
This
election
is
and we
really
have the right to do
nonsensical.
it, Chris.
President Trump,
I
thank
think
you.
he's basically just declaring now that he's already won the election for this year, which is easy to do when you fix it.
Mhm.
Thank you for doing this and looking
Thank
forward to this, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Joe.
The American people
You call him
have a
Jim?
to have a
That's not like
say
Jim.
who the Supreme Court
Let's see
nominee is.
how.
And that
Let's see what
say
Biden's
occurs
energy levels
when they
look
vote
like.
for a United States senator
that
and when
that
they
usually
vote
decides it
for
for.
the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. Election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable
He was
Care
too
Act.
incompetent to get it done.
20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions. And they'll be
and like 7 of them actually have health care.
Insurance companies are going to love this. And so
we're all fucking unemployed.
To do this before this election.
Hey, do you know if there are
Then
closed
the
captions
election,
for this?
it's
That might be
either
helpful to some
Democrat or
people.
Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to
Trump
extinguish
quoting
180
Ginsburg like the
million
feminist
people
king
with-
Yeah,
he
wow.
is.
Honestly,
Not
there's
true.
one
Well,
feminist
you're
choice
going
in
to
this
socialist,
election, and I think that we all know who it is.
Now into, gentlemen, we're now into open
I
discussion.
don't know.
Discussion.
It's tough between feminist icon Trump and queer coded Biden.
What I proposed is that we
Why?
expand Obama.
Now, this is an election in which I feel represented.
One of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine.
party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am.
If
an evidence-
only. They
Oh,
should
wow.
be so lucky that they wanted to
true.
do something socialist ever.
Democratic
That's
Party
the
is
best
what I,
advertisement for
fact,
the Democratic Party
do.
ever. Me,
I-
Joe Biden.
Now, here's the
I'm the
deal.
party.
The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000.
Wait,
Imagine how
I gotta
much
say- I
they
gotta
could
say-
help by landmark legislation like Medicare for all.
Didn't you just say the X number of people that died?
2 million people.
How many
because
of
you were
them
very late on the
survived?
draw.
That
You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me
took
to
a
draw.
ban
second to
China,
sink into
which
my
was
head.
heavily infected. You didn't
Of
want
all
me
the
to
people
ban.
that died,
It
many
was
lived?
heavily
President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr.
Much
President,
later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as a
shut him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about
Because
COVID
there
in
have
the
been
next
7 million cases and
Let me
200,000 deaths.
Is that the president also is
It's 1 out
opposed
of
to Roe v.
30.
Wade.
Yeah.
That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on
Oh,
the
God.
ballot?
Because
Why is it
you
on the
said
ballot? It's on
Trump
the
is gonna.
ballot.
Oh
on the ballot
no,
in the
this
court.
is
think
gonna
so?
look really bad for Biden. I think.
Nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just
don't
be quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe. v.
Biden's like
Wade.
in attack stance, but he's meandering into these attacks, and then Trump's just
Stop it,
sitting back.
guys.
And
So,
Just shush for a minute so we can talk.
Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the
Just
Supreme
like sitting there,
Court
like,
here,
Peter, he's not letting me finish my sentence.
the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
He's like,
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
Because they
If-
want to
if-
give
if I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
The individual
finish, I'm
mandate.
gonna give you an
Excuse me,
opportunity.
I
When
got
I-
rid of the individual mandate. You can take
It's not a
chunks of Obama-
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me. Let me
Obamacare.
ask my
I'll ask Joe.
Is he though?
It was a popular
Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like
And
you
we
to,
will
Mr.
protect people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate. Ask my question, and then you can answer that. You, these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question
If they
sir,
talk about
is
critical race theory today, I'm gonna lose my shit. They better.
Surprise. Let me just tell you something that there's nothing symbolic.
Remember the level of question that they're on. I think the name that Chris Wallace chose was like race and policing or something. It's like
You could have done it.
you're already
before
you're already
47
leading with that
You
description.
didn't
Dude.
do it. Nobody's done
Watch
it.
one of them pull out Crenshaw though, or like some like hardcore feminist crit theory.
Oh God.
Destroying families, destroying people.
Somebody,
the cause.
somebody's gonna bring
I'm
up like a.
Andrea
It's like
Dworkin or
Twitter.
something.
Oh my God.
All of
Biden was
the-
just
like-
handed a name beforehand by like Simone Sanders or something. Just like
Donald Trump starts talking about like colon tie or something.
I say this is open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
it's
ask you
with-
about-
This
You'll
is
be happy.
big
Which
stuff.
one is more likely to have actually read Dworkin? I think Biden, because Dworkin was
Biden.
unattractive and Trump would not have paid attention to her for that reason.
to Obamacare, and
Okay,
the
but do you
argument
think that Biden would have read anything, or do you think that
is
like
that is
he would
going
have
to
No, I
had-
think
drive
probably
people
what
to-
actually happened is
Something.
Jill.
That's
Oh,
the question.
Jill?
I think probably
And-
Jill
and-
patiently explained it to him
Well,
over
and-
several
and certainly
decades, and he's
creating
still only
government
halfway with it. Is my
takeover.
guess.
It does not. It's only for those people.
But
who
he
are so
says he
poor
read
they
it.
qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option.
it's
Number
just gibberish to the average person. Like
Yeah.
The manifesto.
Don't worry,
Total wonk
Legalized
speak.
medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
that-
gonna
Don't
let
go
it-
make
you know,
sure
the
that
fact of
people
the
with
matter
money
is,
have better
people
health
with
care
funders-
because they're more deserving.
Right,
Don't
people
worry.
hold on. I'm
Not
here.
by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have.
like
left
imagine
with
someone who's
a-
trying to like
Oh,
navigate
oh,
the bureaucratic
oh,
nightmare.
God.
Now we're doing
Oh.
slurs. All right.
I got very
I had
lucky.
old,
I'm getting very
I had
lucky tonight as
extremely
well.
old-fashioned slur on
And
my
tonight
bingo
I'm gonna
card.
make sure, because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so
Here's
far
the deal.
is simple.
Slurs.
I
Guys.
also have,
feel like I gotta
I also
drink
have
to that.
Bernie attacked, so I'm crossing
You
that
just-
out.
I want to
Hey,
make
wait,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your
I-
class.
I
Ooh,
want to make
devastating,
That was fucking mean.
devastating.
Surprise.
Oh, Trump's on his home turf there. Just make it just
Agreed with
schoolyard
Sergey
insult.
the idea.
Massive Alec.
There is no manifesto number.
I
one.
I thought
Number
Trump
two,
was gonna
lost
like
the left.
maybe
Number two,
show up
I-
and be like
just
slightly
lost the left.
presidential, but no,
You
he's
agreed
decided
with
to
Bernie
just
Sanders
Be like,
show
hey,
up and be a messy.
Absolutely
Folks,
agreed
do
to
you have
fucking-
any
that
idea
man
what
have
this clown's
socialized
doing?
honestly,
He's sticking to his
like
strengths.
we said,
Like
he's a king.
Mr.
Well, I tell
President,
you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care, because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of
Trump's
his
like, who,
recession.
Bernie?
Hey, Kennedy, can you turn the volume of
He
the
wants
stream
to
up?
take it away. He
And
won't.
if not, can we use a different
And
source?
I say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health
As
care
loud
at
as
a
it
much
gets.
lower price
But, and
because
by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize
This is so funny.
Obamacare, as you
Two
might know, but
separate,
probably
like-
don't.
And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away
Honestly,
the
I'm
individual
just
mandate.
impressed that the
We
presidential
guaranteed
candidates
pre-existing
are somehow
conditions. We took away
cross-talking
the
more than we
individual
are.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had
Like,
a
there's
choice.
6 of
Do I
us.
let my people run it really well or badly? If I
The
run
thing
it
is,
badly,
they're, like,
they'll probably
equally
blame him, but they'll
incoherent,
blame me. But more
but
importantly, I want
Trump
to help
has, like,
Hey,
a
everybody,
theatrical,
can everybody quiet down
I
for a
just had
second?
a meeting with them.
Sorry.
They said the problem is no matter how
The
well
volume on the
does
stream,
Obamacare,
or choose a different source.
it's too
Because
expensive.
people are having
premium
problems,
is
period.
high, and it
That's what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
we do
No,
want to
no,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's an
Chris, we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir, but
something
I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take in that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strong
Vote
you
or
feel.
die.
No.
Vote now.
You're gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know.
He doesn't
Vote
understand the
right
question.
now.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is-
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is-
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you
Who is
shut
your,
up, man?
listen, who is on your list?
You shut up, man.
Hell yeah. I was
Yes.
hoping we get a shut
That-
up now
oh.
tonight.
We need more of that.
second
Shut up, man.
People understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
Oh,
All right.
They're definitely going to punch each other.
Yeah.
19, awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce
I think Chris Wallace might deck them first.
for even years before we
He's like a
come back
babysitter with
anything
toddlers.
approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic.
Joe Biden is smizing. Is that
People
just me?
panic. He panicked.
Wow.
I think he's
Did that.
smizing.
What did he do?
No,
went in,
honestly,
we
that's
were
like
insisting
the
that
things that all
China,
the old people make
we
when
had
their
on the
brains
ground in
start to
China
melt.
should be able to go to
Like
Wuhan
all of
and
them.
determine for themselves
You
how
know, maybe
dangerous
Tyra
it
learned
was.
from him.
He did not even
Maybe not the
ask
other way
China to
around.
do that.
It's practice from wearing so many masks. That's why he's so good at it.
Gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we would have listened
Wait,
to
wait,
you,
you have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in Russia.
Xenophobia.
You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in
It's a-
India.
it's
They
a
don't
safe
exactly
bet.
give you a straight count,
Of
just so
course.
you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you
It's
didn't think I
unrelated
should have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait
sir,
a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governor
President
said,
Trump was kind of nice with it.
Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made
You
the
can
ventilators.
just say anything if you're willing to lie.
We're doing therapeutics
They
already.
got the gowns.
Dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake
I
news.
should have put
They
fake
give you
news on
good
my
press.
bingo
because
They give
card.
you
movie.
bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic
Wait,
recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
Far
there
less-
was
How many
no-
thousands
You made
of
a
people
point.
died
There
from
was
swine
no-
flu day?
No, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a
What?
situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been.
Certainly,
by the
like,
way,
none of the
his
people in
own-
the
his
audience,
own-
all of
his own
them have been able
CDC
to
director
question
said
Trump is destroying here.
He
200,000
really
Trump is
is.
destroying
at
him.
the end of the year. And he
Just
held
on
up
like
and
a
said,
human level,
"Suggest
like
you wear a
he
mask, you can
sounds
save half those numbers. Just
not
a
like
mask."
he's like a
By
scripted
the way,
politician.
in terms of
Every time
the
Biden says
whole
something, he's
notion
like,
of the
"This
vaccine,
guy."
good
What
for a
the
vaccine,
fuck?
but we
You
don't
know?
trust him with
Biden's
the
like
vaccine.
he's zombie walking through the same platitudes that everyone says, but like in a so ineffectually and so like he's just meandering and Trump's just cutting through and
Honestly,
no
when he's
fucks like
been-
his style.
All right. Shh.
Focusing on the future first,
Sorry,
President
the
Trump, you have
question is-
repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna.
The free market. Wow.
Yeah,
faster than that by
the
a lot.
companies that like
Very
it's
political.
only like
Or I don't know if we
So
call them
you're
left. I
a
don't know.
week ago that we found out that people are getting neurological problems from these vaccine
He
trials,
didn't say that.
but
He
the
said,
companies are taking care of it. It's fine.
I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering
the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same.
was, you know, that
I
was
That
said
was pretty good.
deal.
I would
This
like to
man
inject
is
bleach in my
talking
arm right
about
now.
the vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year, but the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out. If we get the vaccine, and pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you
Everybody
can't, or
knows.
Senator
And
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yeah, well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists that are in
by
charge.
the way,
They will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
let him finish.
you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college.
She's such a catty old lady.
Right?
I love her so much.
Lowest or almost the lowest in class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh,
Because you know what?
Holy
Smart about you.
shit.
Touched a nerve.
He's like,
Just
you're a
a bit.
You
dumbass.
would have had, let me just
Joe.
tell you something, Joe.
Oh,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
You see,
and
he-
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
okay.
It's going up fast.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Pelosi. And
And
Schumer,
by the
try and
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits in his golf course. And I mean,
Nah.
literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
Oh,
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
oh.
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. You want to He wants to shut down the country. Just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another subject.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down
which is
right
now. President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay. You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example,
No one cared who I was until I put on the mask.
Social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 400 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
As he's not wearing a mask.
Look, the way to open business.
Trump is in stand-up mode tonight.
I love it.
Money. The
But
Congress.
I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious.
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good.
I
I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with masks.
Got him.
Case. Why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issue,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference.
Herman Cain,
We
anybody?
do them outside. We have
You
tremendous.
still tweeting,
Oh, he's-
okay?
Oh, he's the black guy. It's
Every-
fine.
and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Gotcha.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've had
Well,
35, 40,000
All right.
people
You wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks. Basically encouraging
All right.
he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
If you get
the economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown
Much
This-
faster.
in the second quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment,
by
you go
letter
first.
shapes.
We built the greatest
What
economy.
does
in
any of
history.
this
We
mean?
closed it down because
I
of
had
the
to think
China
for
plague.
so
When the
long
plague
about what
came
that
in,
meant.
we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot
Of course, all of the
people-
jobs are specifically in the Amazon child pornography mines. So like,
tough shutdowns.
It's not like
Don't forget the Wayfair.
You know?
Yeah, I heard
Wayfair's
Wayfair's
thing.
hiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say,
let
let's
Joe
shut it
Biden
down.
destroy the
All right.
suburbs.
Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in tax.
Sir, sir, it's his. I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes. Please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are
very happy to do
it.
Very happy.
The people of Ohio, we are happy about our football.
Biden just has no chance to articulate any other vision. Like it's.
That in 2016,
yeah, I mean, he's in Ohio. He said Big Ten football. That's all you got to do.
As president,
Ohio, all of Ohio is a cult for OSU.
$750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million this year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, go to the board of elections. It's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of that.
return.
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you, will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to
When?
see it. But let
In
me just tell
Shalom?
you, Chris, let me just say something that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe it. And then got fired.
Oh God.
Get his ass.
Democrats are so fucked.
I do want to
Oh,
respond.
Get his
God.
ass.
The tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 20?
I don't like being pointed at. It makes me uncomfortable.
You weren't president screwing things up.
You were
I don't want him to look at me.
Worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years.
Oh, I love the 47
Go
years.
off.
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken
Ooh.
military. that you
Is
gave
it
us.
actually 47 months?
Mr. President, we're talking about the
I don't
economy.
know, I
I'd
can't
like
do
to
math.
ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
man.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president
Because
with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never
and
boomed.
The economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower tax for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. if you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
Hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the
That-
likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew it.
booming.
He
It
blew it.
wasn't booming.
It was
It was the weakest
Well, sir,
recovery
is it
since
fair to wait? Is it fair to
1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact, there was
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris,
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy.
miracle.
They say no, you're number two.
I brought back 700,000 jobs. They
Holy
brought back
shit.
They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
do that.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back. I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back.
I'm the
Chrysler-
guy. No, I'm the guy.
He blew it. They're gone. He blew
I'm the
it.
guy.
And in fact, they're going.
Ohio
after
had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from
Not-
Japan.
Between football and this, he's really pushing for the Ohio vote.
Hmm.
And so
He's
you take
afraid.
what he's actually
He
done.
shouldn't be though.
He's doing very
Really.
little. Trade deals are the same way. He
I
talks
want
about
to eat my
free
words, but
trade deals.
Ohio is
He
gonna
talks
just
about
like
part of the
keep.
deal. China's made perfected.
Stop
the
it.
That's
that
gone.
budget
It's
biscuit.
far gone. It's not even a thing state anymore.
We're the
Yeah,
highest
no.
deficit rate
Trump
deficit
country.
in
On
the
every
world.
level. On every
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
I mean, like I drive through the country and there are just like cornfields with these massive like
He takes
painted
out
wood signs that are
millions of
just
dollars.
like Trump.
Takes out millions of dollars to manage. He
2020.
makes millions of dollars. And also,
It's
while we're
scary.
at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
Oh, here we go.
Christ. Oh God.
Hashtag blue and on.
Let's
None
go.
$3,000.
of
Ask
that
a
is
question,
true.
let him answer. If,
None of that is true.
Oh,
It's
really? He didn't
totally,
get
no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
it's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he
let's
didn't
talk-
get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice
He got $3.5
Debate.
million.
Sounds
it is not
debate.
President,
Sounds to the
please.
now,
Sounds debate.
it
You
is
have
not
raised an issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
Let's go. I love it. I love it.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly
By
discredited.
who?
And
The media.
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone. That's discredited. Matter of fact,
Does he think it looks good that he has to like take a
Oh.
2-second nap every time Trump says
no,
something?
go ahead. Mr. I'm listening to you.
People under
Got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know who
honorably.
they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the
I'll fire
people who
them.
No,
testified.
no, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
people-
job.
Some people don't.
Well,
do a good
here's
job.
the,
With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say,
You get
here's the
the, wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
hey,
this
let me
person.
just say that.
That is simply-
Wow, that hit
Wow.
hard.
About time he hit
It's about
that.
time.
and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already
family,
No, no, let him-
my
let-
family
already
lost
wrote
a fortune by
Okay.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
and that's
Every-
such a
They're just gonna start calling each other's sons
One of
ugly.
them was
this is not
Mr.
about my
President.
family or his
Helping us
family.
with
It's about your
Yeah, but
family.
at least
In
all of my
America,
kids are
it
still
doesn't-
alive.
Not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should-
All right,
Not
that's the end
about
of
here.
the, that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
It didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I
it's-
be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I-
stood up.
No,
He stood up
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion if you don't
that
get rid of
is
the troops.
absolutely-
You know what?
Let's go.
You're doing it.
Let's go.
If you listen really closely, they're harmonizing.
Oh my God.
Different than the two of you. So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have
This is a Gautier song.
6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than.
Oh my
sir,
God.
less
He started it. He's
You want.
touching me.
The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the 2 of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
No president.
No president.
That when Floyd was
None.
killed, Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the Black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you
fucking baller.
The thing is, like,
your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot
I
worse
don't know.
than that.
It's
As
just
far as the
like
church-
we warned the Democrats that this would be like the
generals are
exact
concerned, you just
thing
got
that
the
he
support of
hammers
200
home.
250
Doesn't
military
matter.
generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe?
Radical left support, yeah.
Yeah,
Settle.
Here we are, Joe Biden
We
stands.
would put out that fire in a half an hour.
Settle
but
for
they won't.
Biden
They're run by
is
radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago,
a salient
if you look
threat.
at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe. Because
Seattle. We got it back. We got it back for the anarchists.
Just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work, and in law enforcement, and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable.
You compare a cop to an apple again. The entire that's so fucking rude to apples.
Well, I mean, they both get stuck in your teeth when you eat them.
Rights groups, to the police officers, the police chief.
Excuse me.
In which we have more transparency, and when these things happen, these cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it.
Yeah, because they got caught.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful.
protest?
President Trump,
No,
I'm
it's
not
not,
asking-
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order
Please.
in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial
I fucking
You called it. Oh, my God.
There is systemic racism.
I mean,
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane.
maybe it's a good thing that he told them not to read White Fragility.
In our military, in our schools, all over the place.
Thank
and
you. Thank you, Trump, for banning that book.
and you know,
What about,
it's totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training?
If
sir?
you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were
Very
teaching
sick
people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values. Of
Alice in the chat, this
We're
one's for
teaching
you.
people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's
Oh,
racist. Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't
than you do.
Good, let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grow up.
Oh my God.
On people who don't
Oh no! Cat Twitter.
Bringing up Catholicism was
out of
not the
control.
fucking move.
No! Oh no!
Also,
Oh no!
this is the kicker. He's
Together.
fucking German. He's not even Irish Catholic. His family, they're German Protestant.
Racism
Vice
in America.
President, President Trump, sir.
During the
The
Obama
malarkey thing is all like
Biden
a.
administration,
it's
there was
all branding.
tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You look at. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
Violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
law and order. Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice,
All right,
where people
start
are treated
yelling.
fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're
He
not.
is
You're,
I think we should have like a gentleman's like glove battle.
Every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And the
we're now going to
places
talk
we-
about law and order.
Places we had trouble. We're Democratic run.
Hear me
cities.
out.
That's exactly-
Presidential
There has been a
joust.
dramatic
Yeah.
increase in
Let's
homicides in America
go.
this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic
They have to like
mayors and
run through the
Democratic governors,
American
but in
Ninja
fact, there have
Warrior
been
course.
equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
He's going
I
to
know
destroy the
I was
suburb.
raised-
Go ahead,
I was-
wait a minute.
I was
Wait a minute.
raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to
The
buy
urban
and
planner
rent
in me
and
would beg to
the same
differ.
spot
Yeah.
as They have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in
Don't
trouble.
defend White Flight 2020. That's all I ask for you.
Nation that came from the Biden Bernie Sanders task force. You talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support?
It means
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of police?
Chris Wallace isn't even the
He's
language.
he's like trying to figure out what to say that's like
the
sort of
opportunity to-
He's like,
acceptable.
what is it?
totally
How do I
opposed to
not
funding police officers.
say
Matter of
slurs
fact,
when
these
I say
local
this?
The only one defunding it is what calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Did you just say a 9/11 call? I've literally never heard anyone say it like
We
that.
have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get
It's
to
like how when
know
people refer to 9/11 as 911.
it didn't go up. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're
that's
He's talking
exactly-
about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any
Well,
law
Well, you
support.
look,
He has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
except
about
listen.
it.
Oh God.
Name one law enforcement group.
He's
They
getting
came out-
destroyed.
I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there
and
are any.
I want to get to another subject.
I'm gonna take
Yes,
back the moderator role. Bitch, don't lose it.
I'm reclaiming my time.
We had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful
100
protests,
days.
turned
We're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President,
I think that they should have been 100 gay days.
people who commit crime should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said,
And the Senate.
you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But
should
you've
be
never called for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader.
that.
Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Because
bring
they-
in the National Guard and knock
Well,
off 100 days of riots.
They
God
can, in
have
fact,
mercy.
take care of it if he just stay out of the way.
Trying to do that branding, 100 Days of Riots. Repeating that phrase.
I mean, it is like a good headline.
Yeah.
Shot him.
Yeah, no.
Three
It's good branding.
in the U.S. Marshals,
President
they took
Trump.
care of business.
Makes the
My new
riots
band
sound
name.
sick. Oh yeah, hell yeah.
100 Days of Riots. Yeah.
You know, riots and chaos.
Who's trying to
and
start that
violence.
ska band with me? Let me know.
This is all
I
about.
don't know who said that.
I
I
call
do.
backup vocals.
I think Kellyanne Conway, she said that.
I don't
And so here's
All
the,
right.
here's the point.
Go
The
ahead.
point is that that's
Here's the
what
deal,
he is
Mac.
riling everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just one
repeated. No,
second.
you've been talking.
I would
No,
love
you
to
know,
end it.
sir,
I would
Trump
love
is
to end
owning
it.
him, but he's still arguing with the moderator.
I love
do
it.
that, but
If
I'm,
send
no,
in the
I'm
National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
okay.
I want to accept
His
the National
contempt for
Guard.
the media is so complete.
The vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add
Yeah, those
to
are
the
the same
violence
things.
in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
Yeah, the
I'm willing to
kid
do
that
anything. I wanna
murked
see
a bunch
peace.
of people.
Say
Yeah,
it.
that was a.
Say it.
He was actually an
You wanna call him-
anti-fascist.
That was a literal yes, but at condemning white supremacy.
Yeah.
Right-
It sucks.
Yes,
you
and
know,
it's for
so-
improv.
But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left because this is not a
His
right-wing
own-
problem.
his
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director.
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not
Oh
militia.
God,
His
he's tearing it.
FBI
It's an idea.
Antifa Biden?
director said.
Well,
It's
then
an
you know what?
idea. It's an
Sir,
idea.
Everybody
we're
When
moving-
a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration
Photoshop
tells you
with him with like the 3 arrows on his forehead.
Oh my God, yes.
Antifa,
Like a
Antifa
lapel
is
pin.
All right,
The
gentlemen,
Antifa sheets, lapel pin.
records. When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you
Sure.
are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the
Space Force.
VA,
Let's
which was a
go.
mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. We've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know, one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama
Just
and
taking a fucking victory lap.
judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your
Damn.
record,
Damn.
why should voters elect you president as opposed to
Holy
President Trump?
shit.
You have 2 minutes on it.
Under this president, we become weaker,
Mask off.
sicker,
Fuck it.
poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son
And-
gets
No.
$3.5 million.
And by the way,
Mr.
friend.
President,
my son,
wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed
Hunter.
both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can
Because-
you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
very
asking.
serious
That was a
man.
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes, you
Okay.
may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people
That
left
is a-
behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I
Are you
resent
talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son.
I don't know. I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was
Hunter.
thrown out
Hunter.
dishonorably discharged
That's not true. It
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a
Let's
job
go.
until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune,
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
my son, like a lot of people, you know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But
dollars?
he wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions of
He was
dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been totally
President Trump,
discredited.
you've already been
Totally discredited.
we've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, great.
from the
Let's talk
mayor
about-
of Moscow,
Let's talk
That is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a
That
common thing.
report is discredited.
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money. That report, it was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. the forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project.
Wants that
and it's
pure
very
shit.
That human,
that uncut water, that uncut raw air.
Yes, I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called
Trump
forest
revived
cities.
the Civilian Conservation Corps. I know you can do it.
I was with the head of
it.
It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of.
If you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
California, they simply
no, but you
ignored
would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour.
Ambitious target.
Prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're going
to the case.
All right, let me because I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's what he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. But the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
the Green New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not my plan.
I want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about
the military.
That's right. It's not
military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay,
that is
what
not
he
true.
did.
Sir, you're done in this segment.
He called
Mr.
the military
Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He said stupid
please,
bastards. He said it.
Stop.
I would never say that.
Play it.
Go ahead, Mr. Vice President. Answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. You're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
support
support the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support
that means you just lost the radical left.
I
support. Trump gets it. Trump gets it.
Which is different than
poor Biden. He's like a cat trying to chase a laser on a wall.
Final segment.
Like he
Election
can't quite
integrity.
get
As we
it.
meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ plus weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote, because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting, because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup.
Crooked Hillary
They
was
came
on
after
my
me
bingo
spying on my
card.
campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our first lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump.
In creeks.
Paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir.
all run by
2 minutes.
Democrats.
2 minutes.
All run by
You're-
Democrats. It's
President
fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them. terms of the election itself.
Hope
but
you
for the
don't
ballot
need them.
because what's happening is incredible.
I
I
want
read today
Amy
where at
Barrett
least 1%
personally
of the
to look
ballots
at
for
the ballots.
2016 were
You know, it has to have a
invalidated.
woman's
They
touch.
take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are
They
you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I
okay.
know
Or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold.
The thing
They're
is,
being
it's going to
dumped
work.
in rivers. This
know?
is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is not
Mary
going
did
to
it once. in
There is no
2000.
This is not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states have
fact,
had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows of the
wrong.
outcome.
You're
They-
wrong.
they-
I love
I
counting
want
the
to
votes.
continue with you on
I
this,
love counting
Vice
the
President
votes.
Biden.
Chris,
because
he's so wrong
in-
when he makes
in
a
fact,
statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden. The biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting, has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they
That can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots,
Gentlemen, I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system,
you
know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
All
there's
right.
been
So now,
fraud.
Mail
There's
service
final-
delivers
wait a minute, gentlemen, and the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a
80
day.
in
million
8
ballots.
states,
It's
in
a-
8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelope,
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
Could be months.
until we know who the president is. So
He's setting it up.
finally,
Months.
Vice President, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in
Oh, I
any
don't like the look on his face.
unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory
And Biden
until
just fell
the
asleep
election
again.
has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go
urging
first.
my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
what-
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're gonna
tell you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are
out
you gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do?
That's what the media wants.
These people aren't equipped to handle it.
That's
Number
what it
one,
wants.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
and Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. And here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military They've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots. That somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it. He will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president, not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to ballot count.
Gentlemen.
But what about the radical left?
At the end of this debate,
honest ballot count.
we're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Good night, bitch.
Really, this was the most chaotic presidential debate.
All right, enough of these nerds. Let's get out of here. But let's say there's a debate. There's a post debate. We didn't plan on doing a post debate stream, but because of the audio levels, I wanted for.
Also, they didn't take any breaks.
Yeah, there were no breaks for us to squeeze our takes in. So
yeah,
let's do like a 30 minutes and let's run a round table.
Yeah, let's do
it. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, hell yeah.
So,
okay.
Winners, losers, major take.
It was bad.
Absolutely nothing.
Kennedy, you're good, Kennedy. We can't read body language, so get in there and
like gonna lose.
Yeah, my I didn't want to keep like laughing at Joe Biden getting pummeled, but that was like the natural response. Like my little normie heart, like I just kept thinking of like what like the average person like would think if they tuned in and watched like Joe Biden have to like restart his like system like every 30 seconds by like taking a 3-second nap on the stage. Like it was just really sad. It was really sad.
Grifty, tell us how this went. How do you feel about this? Is there a debate collection that we can get out of this? What's happening?
I love how Hunter got the shout out. It tied in. It tied in very well with the design that I have for him in the shop. But yeah, no, like I mean, I think Trump killed it, to be honest, and he had no right to, like considering his administration, he has no right to be doing this well in a debate, but he was just able to leverage his personality and able to like turn that on to the right level, because we haven't seen that Trump in a while, because he hasn't been entertaining in a long time. But Biden was pretty milquetoast, and Trump was able to turn on that savage comedian style side to him, and Biden really wasn't able to counter it.
No.
Danny, talk about your reflections from this debate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my reflections are threefold. So first, I think the debate is emblematic that nobody is between the two of them, and it's really just a shit show for us and a spectator sport. And that's, I mean, if anything could sum up our democracy in 2020, it would be that. Second, it shows the difference that a moderator can do, because I think that it was just such a shitty performance on the part of Chris Wallace, and but it also begs the question of, like, if he can't do it and none of these other fucking anchors can do it, then who would be a good moderator?
Matt
Who? Matt Chrisman. Me. I would shut them both the fuck up. But I would really love Bernie to just do, I am once again asking for your answer. But I also just need a lot more Advil for the rest of the debate.
Oh
God. Rachel, tell us your thoughts on the debate. Don't mention the phrase community garden in your answer, though.
Well, so first of all, that shit was so bad. No problem. So first of all, that was such a shit show that even my computer decided to kill itself. So that's where I'm at. Honestly, after watching that is the moment I became certain that they've learned absolutely nothing. And like, I wish I was saying this like with any sort of like meaningful joviality. Like, I know it up and like making people feel better right now, but what I actually feel is horrified. They put Joe Biden up because they couldn't let go, because they are determined to make sure that our future, they keep saying, our future, it's going to be 95 years old. And that's it. That's just going to be the state, is a bunch of 5-year-olds like chewing on each other, zero teeth and shitting themselves like puppies. And that's the future that we have for us. It's like, congratulations, you did it. Thanks. I appreciate it. All of the Democratic Party. Thanks for having our backs.
I've got two major takeaways. And the first one is, yes, Biden got owned, but potentially it doesn't matter. Because we're all, the people watching this, they're just very far apart from each other politically. And I don't know if the people who are going to be swung in this election are the same kind of people who could be swung by savage comedian lines. Like Griffey was talking about, oh yeah, he got the dunks in. Who are the swing voters in this election? It's like 20, 40-year-old white women. Like, are they going to be into savage dunks? Are they going to be into wordplay and quips? Or are they looking like for somebody who is just a boring nerd that is stable? I don't know. But Biden did just horrendously. This was probably his worst performance since 2012. I don't think it's bad during the primary. But, the other thing that's the point is, to what degree did this have to be Joe Biden? If your entire rationale for getting a moderate up there was so that these attacks wouldn't stick, well, Trump, as everyone predicted, didn't care who was on the stage and said the same shit to Biden that he would have said to AOC. So is it worse to have AOC herself up on the stage to defend her own policy instead of having someone who is getting accused of the policy and is just feebly saying, that is my plan, the Green New Deal pays for itself, but it's also not my plan. I don't know what's going on here. Like, incoherent as a spokesman for any sort of value system. He was scolding Trump a little bit sometimes, but I don't know if it was a set of arguments that measured up to a worldview. So kind of bad. Kennedy, what do you think?
I think that Chris Wallace lost the debate.
Absolutely.
And I think that
any of these people, no mute button, but also couldn't shut either of them up. And Biden, Biden is an infamously polite debater and never speaks over the moderator. But even he was exasperated by like the 30-minute.
He didn't yield any of his time, which was a new one for Biden so far. He's like,
I put Biden yielding his time on my bingo card. I didn't get that one. So Chris Wallace lost the debate. I mean, our show is less messy and we talk over each other nonstop. So that's saying something. As far as who won the debate, probably Johnson and Johnson or one of those other petrochemical companies that Trump made. Or maybe Hunter Biden. He might have won the debate. He got a lot of clout on I wish my name was getting dropped a bunch in a presidential debate. I don't care if you're calling me a drug addict. Just say Kennedy Cooper over and over again on a presidential debate so that I get like 200,000 followers or whatever.
name recognition.
Yep.
They definitely need, honestly, Rogan and 4 Hours would have actually been a more informative format. Assuming that Trump would have listened to Rogan, or because I mean Rogan's he's gonna insist on being able to cut people off.
Because Trump didn't respect Chris Wallace.
Yeah, Trump clearly didn't respect Chris Wallace at all.
It was clear, yeah. And like you were saying, Brandon, like there's absolutely no material result from who did better in this debate. I think I saw something going in like less than 5% of people watching this are undecided, and it's just entertainment for either side, and there's absolutely no one being swayed by any of this. So like all the sort of ironic laughing at Trump is just like Biden didn't implode, but like the entertainment tonight was definitely from Trump's side for sure.
Also, I still think that would be better than the debate that we had. Like, just objective. And Trump, I don't know whether this one will or won't get replayed a lot, but Trump, I believe that was one of the best debate lines of all time. Did y'all hear when he was fucking ranting about these judges? And he was talking about, I got hundreds of judges on. And now, the Democrats have a different value system, but had I been a member of a party where their president lost hundreds of judges to the other side, I'd say that person was a failure as a president. And you're watching this and you're like, how the fuck can you argue with that? Yeah. What is the argument? What can you even say?
You can't come back.
He's just racking up numbers. It's like we got 300 people appointed. Like he's just literally talking about the effectiveness of his party's ideological program. It's like yo, we are effective political actors.
And when he says
Biden has nothing to counter that with.
When he says the Democrats have a different philosophy, he means I'm here to seize and execute political power, and these guys are hall monitors that fucking clearly can't accomplish shit because, again, they left hundreds of judges on the table.
Jesus Christ.
And we can say obstructionism, and yeah, all that's true, but had it been Trump, you don't think Trump would have, if there had been a Merrick Garland situation with Trump, you don't think Trump would have just had the National Guard sit his guy down on the bench and then made it. Now, the court might have stopped him.
He would have done a recess appointment.
Yeah. The court might have stopped him at the door and been like, yeah, you're not a Supreme Court justice, turn around. But Trump would never be able to say, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't try to get this happen. But the good news for Biden, if there's good news, no one will care that he got on.
Yeah. No.
Fine.
He did get a couple of dunks in too, so when they go to clip it, there will be a couple of dunks that they can kind of pull out.
Good dunks,
when he called Trump a clown was probably the best one.
I don't know.
The bar underground.
I'm just saying the Democratic strategists that are looking for 15 seconds of Biden looking like, what quote unquote presidential to put in a clip, are going to find their clips. There were a few moments where he sounded almost coherent and kind of.
He gave the Lincoln Project a couple sound bites that they can work with.
Yeah, again, Project 3-second naps, like in between, having to restart his system on the stage.
And sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say about this Joe Rogan thing. People in the comments want to be mad at Joe Rogan. Chris Wallace is a much bigger monster, just for the record. Like, I'm not even defending Rogan. Like, but like, if we're gonna talk about like people like in the media, I just want to compare apples to apples and say that Chris Wallace is a Fox News host and a literal monster. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, and like Joe Rogan, like for all of the like harmful shit that he does, like he really is a case of like he really is just not that bright. Like, I'm sorry, like I'm not a fan of his, but I really don't think he's got like a political project.
All right, so
mind.
He's not a malicious actor. He's a dumb guy. He's a dumb guy. He's like he has bad takes. Who gets pushed in some bad directions.
He's every guy that you run into like carb loading before he goes to the gym.
Oh God!
Like that's just Joe Rogan.
Yes. This is like the problem with the Joe Biden campaign, right?
Yup.
Like, we're talking about what clips of Joe Biden can we pull that are going to look really good? And it's like, well, Trump said some stuff that looks bad. Yeah, Trump always says some stuff that looks bad. It doesn't matter. We got to actually show, like, they're like, what, Joe Biden, why should people vote for you? He's like, vote. Like
3-0.
He has no policy. Like it's like, imagine the Biden administration sweeps into office on like a huge electoral mandate, like landslide. Like, what's their first policy proposal? Like you wouldn't even know from this debate. Like what are they going to do?
Women, ICE officers.
Oh my God. And I think what's so like frustrating is that we know, and we have known for so long, that debates come down to sound bites. And even then, this boy just decided to be unhinged and decided to improvise. And sure, shut up man might be a thing, but like the fact that we're just going on defense is just ridiculous. And on the moderators, it's like, if we have to get a moderator who Trump respects in order to have a seamless debate, then we're going to have a white supremacist moderator. Yeah. And that's fucked. And at that point, I would just rather not have debates. So I think that the respectability argument is like, I'm going to lose my mind.
Well, it literally would be better for Biden and Trump to be toxic to each other. Like, all of us predicted that it would be Biden and Trump doing push-ups at each other. And as much as we laughed about that, that would have been better than Biden being Beto O'Rourke, which he was tonight, and just going, sir, the decency, and getting owned. It would have been better for him to go in the opposite direction and just been like, you're fat, shut up. And it wouldn't have been productive or useful to the country, but at least you're not looking like you're uninformed about your own policy, which is what Joe Biden looked like today, or looking like you don't know what policies that are yours or support.
Yeah, like randomly remembering halfway through an argument, like, wait, fuck, I don't support that. Why
just
am I
lip
defending
sync for
that?
your life? Like, honestly, that's all I want out of a debate.
I assume that Trump and Biden, neither of them wanted a mute button, or Trump disallowed a mute button, because if there had been one, Wallace would have used it by now. Obviously, so we didn't have one. And the whole thing with the back and forth, obviously, Trump's got a whole bunch of bullshit in his replies. Did I say smart? Smart about what? Maybe I did. I don't know.
No, he's
Trump freaked out.
He's referring to Trump.
Smart?
Did you call yourself smart?
Let me bring up your college transcript, you fucking loser dork. I love that.
Some of this stuff and also Biden talking about how many of you have relatives that died because of COVID. Like, listen, statistically, not very many.
Yeah, no.
That's not the mental image that you should have went with. You should have said how many of you had to go to work and get coughed on and have to worry about whether you were going to be physically able to stand up and take
had to choose between the safety of your children and being able to put food on the table for them.
That's something everybody would have been like, yes, I relate to. Of the list of people who would have died, there's an empty chair at dinner. It's not something that's going on in every chair.
What is this? The leftovers?
Tables. Like, what? Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. So, number one, what does Biden need to do in order to be confident at this for the next? He's got to do this 2 more times And two, who else? And don't say Bernie Sanders, but another person could have done a better job.
Marianne. Sorry, I had to put it out there.
Actually, probably.
You're right, though.
This, yeah.
Wait, Brandon, I didn't hear the end of the question. Did you say who could do a better job debating or moderating?
Debating, but not Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
So, Kennedy, who do you got?
I'm gonna say that almost any, like, even give me like Kirsten Gillibrand or like Pete Buttigieg at this point. Like,
yeah, actually,
like, right. Like,
this is a podcast that doesn't compliment Mayor Pete ever. But I think he did a better job at debating Trump than Biden did tonight.
Yeah, this is like the first nice thing I've ever been able to say.
This is extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah,
Warren wouldn't have. Except
Warren. I will say the only people who would have done worse would have been people who would have been even more bullied, because that's what happened here, right? Like Bloomberg would have been more bullied.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Like a lot of people it would have been just like, kind of more cowed than like, So
Kamala Harris would have
gotten Beto.
And she would have been fine. We would have just gotten drunk Kamala for like a night.
Kamala would have been incredible for this. Like, I always said this about her, that like, Kamala's policies and a lot of things very bad. But one thing that, like, if we did nominate her, we could count on her to debate.
She would have had, her body language would have been upright. As a trial attorney, she's somebody that's aware of her posture.
Yes.
She's somebody that's aware of eye contact when somebody's speaking to her, and vice versa. Warren, she doesn't really get bullied. Listen, Warren, first of all, wasn't good during the primary debates. And in times when she was good, it was either against like candidates who were like Delaney, who were like joke candidates, or it was candidates who didn't want to be seen as attacking her at that moment in the race for strategic reasons. When she went directly with people who were in her lane, she didn't perform as well. Whether that was times where she was going up against Pete or Amy Klobuchar or Kamala Harris, they did not do as well in those kind of situations.
And like Trump literally brought up the Native American misrepresentation scandal like at the beginning of the debate. I think that would have been sealed and shut real quick.
Booker would have done okay. I agree on that. But Bloomberg and Warren would have both been complete disasters.
Beto also probably would have like waffled and fallen apart.
Yeah.
As well as this.
Yeah, no, I think that like it comes down to like being, especially because they all just have like the same like bland, like kind of not even like a nothing issue set, right? It's all down to like performance as a politician.
Yeah.
I do think in that category, Kamala is, of all of the like the people who were left standing or whatever. I guess she wasn't. She like dropped out. Like she was one of the first people to drop out, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't even make it to the first. She didn't make it to Iowa or anything.
Hell yeah!
Also,
she's gonna be the vice president if this motherfucker wins. Isn't that just like delicious?
Here's another person I never thought I'd compliment.
Played the game. She played the game really well.
Here's another person I never thought I'd compliment. We in this moment, I almost wish Tulsi Gabbard was the nominee.
Oh,
no, I won't.
She did a video complimenting Project Veritas. Like,
I know. I actually just mostly wanted to segue to that for like a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like my brand is like I will die on any hill to defend Ilhan Omar. So like I'm like ready.
Tulsi would have taken every piece of bait that Trump laid out in order to not confront him on those issues. So she would have, and Biden at least knew that he couldn't really get super into it, aside from like one moment where he was exasperated. He didn't take the bait in agreeing with Trump, but he also couldn't defend the positions that weren't his positions. So he mostly just pouted. Tulsi would have been like, yes, the radical left is bad and I'm trying to bring us together. She would have really went with it.
And also Muslims are scary.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. Beto was done in national politics, but Beto's going to be fine because listen, Beto is going to go to DC.
Yeah.
He's going to, like, as soon as this shit's over, especially if Texas flips, which it may or may not, but Beto's going to have he will never get elected to anything.
He's just going to have a consulting job.
He has his life made as like an oil lobbyist.
Yeah, he'll be the shit.
He and Gwyneth Paltrow will like pair up on Goop or something.
Yes. How like
Beto's
a Beto skincare this is what a politician smells
Beto's
like.
choice.
To be fair, Kennedy, you would want, in fact, both Kennedys.
Yes.
This is where we usually have Kennedy versus Kennedy, but I think you can both agree the Beto skincare system is a skincare system that you would be interested in investing in.
I would, and I would be interested in investing it for the American people.
There you go.
I will take
Beto care, skincare.
I will take 20% of the company in exchange for an investment of $200,000.
That's fair. Dolphin tank, how much? Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. And I mean, to get back to your earlier question, Brandon, about like what can Biden do better? I coach competitive speech and debate, and everything that happens at like a competition like this is like totally antithetical to what happens in political debates. And having to tell high school students, no, that's not how you do it, is so frustrating, because you can't teach students the tenets of rationality and then have this shit happen. And like, I really do think that Biden needs to stop pretending this is a real debate and that this follows the tenets of like canonical debate, and just go for the fucking sound bites. Just go for the attacks.
I feel like Cobra Kai season 3 needs to be about Joe Biden. They coach him up, give him the eye of the tiger, because this one was not great.
They need to turn the drugs up. The dosage for this one was not high enough.
Yeah,
I think they were just calibrating it for this first one. They got to get it right. It's the second one.
They probably
they already the whole thing off of this performance.
Griff,
like, they'll get it right.
They gave him as much as they can give him. They give him any more drugs, steam's going to come out of his eyes. They give him a better cocktail than the one that chemical technologies reached its apex for this debate. So
Joe Biden, they're on to designer drugs for him. There's like drugs that have been designed just for Joe Biden to try to keep him functional at this point, probably.
Yeah, they've got like research chemicals like mainlining into like a thick line.
I mean,
Joe Biden's like, what's this one? They're like MX045 or something.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
He does have like a unique legislative history for being against like Molly and like other like manufactured party drugs. So he's clearly trying to shut down those industries and funnel all of the best talent into production of his own stuff. Like that's just part of
We need
his,
to
like,
nationalize
there on that industry.
We need to nationalize Joe Biden's hallucinogenic routine, his hallucinogenic routine instead of his skincare routine.
Who's gonna be my Joe Biden drug plug? Let me know.
I also say in terms of what can Joe Biden do better? I thought Vox's comment about Joe failing to like turn the Russia thing around, I think that's indicative of what Joe could do better next time. Like, we all know that Trump is like a shady dude. Like, don't let him paint you as shadier. Like, that should be a basic thing that you can prevent. I feel like if you just like the Russia thing, I can't believe that here's Donald Trump standing here going, didn't you take some money from Russia? Didn't you take some money from Russia?
Real estate guy on the East Coast.
And Joe Biden is standing there like, I don't seem to have a retort. What do you mean you don't have a retort for this, Joe Biden? This is the only subject that liberals talk about is fucking Russiagate. Like, come on. All you had to do was just be like, well, don't you also have some shady money connections to Russia, Trump? And then, that's all you had to say. That's all you had to say.
Literally respond with like, your campaign manager went to jail. Like, your campaign manager was sent into jail for like connections to Russian money. Like,
how many people in your orbit are like in jail or like literally
writing books, like get messy with it, like reference like Michael Cohen's book or some shit, like
yeah,
this
like piggybacking off of that, I think that like the thing that he could do to get better is to get messy, like to like the reason that Trump wins isn't because he's right, because everybody knows that these debates aren't about like what's right, because everybody that's watching, so like I feel like the general mood in the country right now is like everything sucks, nobody gives a shit, right? The people that are watching the debates aren't like, who's gonna like deliver me some like material benefits. They're like, who can I have a beer with, and I know that doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound real like when you're a politics person, but like the people have been like dematerialized. Everything is about culture, and people want like, they like the fighter, they like the scrappiness. Like even us, like we're all like on some level, like we're just like regular ass people. Like the things that we responded to were like Biden saying, shut up, or like, the clips of him like calling people stupid bastards or whatever. Like that's what he does that people like. And it sounds like trite or whatever, but if he were to lean into his like, if he were to like signal with his behavior that he has like working class roots or whatever, just by being a little rough and tumble, I think that would work. I really do.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah, I just think he should just be toxic, man.
Yes.
Let out, like, because if you're in a situation, no, I mean, if you're doing karaoke, I'll throw it to you, but like,
hell
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're in a situation, and you as a person that does debate, as a moderator, if you're in a situation where there's no rules and one person isn't respecting the moderator, it doesn't make sense to be the other person that's respecting the moderator. There's not an invisible jury that's looking for fairness and decency. They're just literally watching, especially because a lot of the time, the reason why you have these rules is because the audience is perceiving this on a semiotic level. They're not really listening to the words and assembling the arguments. They're looking for things like who talked longer. That's literally why we have the rules to begin with.
Yeah. And it's so hard to be in this position of knowing the system is fucked and knowing that these debates don't really do anything other than like enhance optics. But there's this tension I feel, my friend and I call it the cosmic joke of knowing that, but still being like, okay, but you can't do what you just did in the debate. Like, I get that I just called this an illegitimate form, but you're still gonna do something. And I just hate being in that tense place.
Absolutely. So, listen, I see us talking about fisticuffs and push-ups. Does anybody have an answer for this that's not rooted in toxic masculinity? Can it
Again, lip sync for your fucking life. If you're gonna be toxic, then pull out the death drops, do some Britney, or I'm leaving.
Please.
I will reference on Twitter. I did a tweet during the debate that was, we could have had Bernard MF and Sanders at this debate. And somebody commented, some lib probably commented with like, he would have talked about policy though. Yes. I like Joe Biden, especially like when he was tripping up over the Green New Deal, like, Joe, know what you support at the next debate, please. God.
Know what you support. Like I said this earlier, it literally would have been better to have a radical leftist talk about how we're going to die from climate change, and this is the way to save our society, than it is for Biden to just be fucking confused. And MAGA Twitter is probably celebrating because they predicted that Biden would just come out and be lifeless and confused and get savage. And he did. But hopefully, if you're like a person that just wants Trump out and you're watching this, it might not be that bad. Hillary won all 3 debates and it didn't matter. So people don't care that much about this kind of stuff anymore.
And I also think it would be better to have a radical leftist up on that stage because we have better jokes. Like, we could have clapped back so much fucking harder.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, we could have followed up with the shut up man with some actual policy or something that actually related to his failures and was a solution, but was also a clapback too. But which Biden just had no vision and he had no ability to articulate it. And Trump was more energetic in getting in the quip. So no matter like what the actual speaking times actually broke down to, like when they totaled up the timing, it just felt like Trump talked more, and Biden just like you didn't really know where he was going most of the time with the points, which was normally how he was in debates. So
you want to shut down? I'll shut you down for a minute.
And I would love to address what somebody said in the chat about seeing Colbert moderate. I think that the moderation format is what lends legitimacy to Trump in a lot of ways, because when a moderator can't shut him down, not only does he get in more of those like punchy pieces of rhetoric, but if they do shut him down and they're dicks to him, as they fucking should be, then he's able to come back and say like, the media hates me. So like,
he said it. He said it during the debate. He said,
Exactly.
"Oh, I guess I'm debating with you. I should have known."
Exactly. So like, why even have a moderator? Why not just have them asynchronously fucking record things in advance? Like, I just simply don't see how a moderator, no matter who it is, doesn't not lend legitimacy to Trump.
Like they talked about not having debates, it would have been better. I thought it would have been better, and it would have been better to just not have it, or to again. Let's let Rogan do it, because if you're in Rogan's studio, you're on a mic and Rogan has the button. He'll just press the button. You're not talking anymore. You know.
This is like a little bit of like a dork story, but like I took a class like back during the like Ohio gubernatorial race, like the primaries, and I had to watch like the Democrats had a debate and the Republicans had just like a sit down discussion. And like, even though everything that came out of the Republicans' mouths was like fucking stupid, like, you know, because, you know, the nature of like the dishonesty of their politics, and it's Ohio, so like, duh. But like, you know, you get so much more out of just like an open, free flow like conversation than you do out of a structured debate, which, like you said, Danny, are all about like sound clips and who can own and like, you know, epically destroy somebody. It's stupid. I hate it. It's gamifying politics.
Yeah.
As if it's ever been anything different, though. I mean, that's literally, yeah, exactly.
It's just like a general mood that I have. Like, I hate it.
100%. And like, I don't want to lose that radical optimism that keeps me going, though, because I think if we like,
I don't mean to shit on you at all. I totally respect it.
Oh my god, no, you're totally good. And like, I don't want to like. I watched this because I'm doom scrolling, basically. This is just like this is not for entertainment. This is purely self-loathing. And like, I can't do that for too long. And I hope we can all just like take a moment to sit in the radical hope that we do have for something, as much as it's difficult to do in moments like this.
I'm not super bummed. I think things will be fine. Both with the election and onward. Because things can only get better, which is good for people, or get worse, which is good for people. The current situation, I don't think, is a tenable situation long term.
Yeah.
So, listen, folks, do we have anything else that we want to add?
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I had so much fucking
this
fun.
was so much fun.
Yeah, Kennedy and Danny, I mean, you guys come back like
Please.
whenever you want. We love talking to you, hanging out. Griff's internet's going in and out, so Griff said they're tapping out.
Oh no!
Griff at any time. None of us are dead. We'll all be in like 20 minutes.
Also, Wilt, there's 2 more debates.
Don't remind me.
No. But listen, if you're here, Nomiki's on now, so you can go and watch her talk about some of this same stuff. slightly. I don't know. Is their production better than ours? I'd say roughly equivalent.
It's like
A little
10% better than ours.
Yeah, like 10%. But we also have like a cool gift background, which she does not have.
Yeah, you guys put on a great show.
Oh,
Killing the game.
All right. So
All
thank